It's the 12th of May, 2013. We're at Vicarage Road in Watford for the second leg of this championship playoff against Leicester City. The score is 2-1 in this game and 2-2 on aggregate. And now, we're in the 7th minute of added time and Leicester City have a penalty. Score and they're in the playoff final. Miss and it's extra time, right? You may know what's about to happen. But first, we need to look back at the moments leading up to this point and the significance of this game. These two teams have mixed success in the playoffs. Watford were at this stage in 1989, losing on away goals to Blackburn Rovers. But 10 years later, they beat Bolton Wanderers 2-0 to reach the Premier League for the very first time. After relegation, they were back again. This time at the Millennium Stadium, convincingly beating Leeds United 3-0 for a return to the big league. But in their last trip to the playoffs, Watford were beaten soundly by Hull City. And just like Watford, Leicester City have similar feelings with the playoffs. At the start of the 1990s, Leicester City were banging on the door of the Premier League and reached the playoffs for 3 straight years. In 92, Blackburn Rovers were the enemy once again, beating the Foxes 1-0 in the final. In 93, they were on the wrong side of a 7-goal thriller against Swindon Town, again in the final. But in 94, joy at last. After overcoming Tranmere in the semi-finals, they defeated fellow East Midlands rivals Derby County 2-1 to reach the Premier League for the very first time. After relegation in 95, Leicester City were back in the playoffs. And they managed to win it again, beating Crystal Palace 2-1 thanks to goals from Gary Parker and Steve Claridge. And in 2010, they went the distance with Cardiff City in the semi-finals. When the second leg was tied at 3-3 after extra time, penalties ensued. Whilst holding a 3-2 advantage, Leicester City's Jan Kermorgant and Martin Waghorn's penalties were saved by Cardiff's keeper David Marshall. Now, Leicester are trying to score a penalty of their own, so that doesn't happen again. But when you look at this season, neither of these two teams should have been here. And this man plays an important part of Leicester even being here. Going into the final day of the season away at rivals Nottingham Forest, Leicester City sat in 8th place, 2 points behind both Bolton and Nottingham Forest. With both this game and the Bolton game tied at 2-2 going into the last minute of their games, it looked as if Leicester were missing out on the playoffs again. But when Forest were attacking, the Foxes sprung a lethal counter-attack. And when Chris Wood rolled the ball into the path of Knockout, he slotted home an easy tap-in to send Leicester into the playoffs on goal difference. Watford, however, sat 1 point behind second place Hull City, and all Watford needed to do was beat mid-table Leeds United at home, then hope Hull slip up at home to champions Cardiff. If these things happen, Watford are automatically up and avoid the playoffs altogether. Things got a lot harder for Watford when their keeper Jonathan Bond collided with his teammate early in the first half, having to be stretchered off and receive treatment in hospital. In to replace him was the third choice keeper Jack Bonham, making his senior debut in the most important game of the season. With his first bit of involvement, Bonham was caught in no man's land coming for a bouncing ball, colliding with his teammate and gifting Leeds a 1-0 lead. When Alman Abdi got Watford back level and then Cardiff equalised against Hull, one more goal for Watford and they'd be up. But when striker Troy Deeney received his second yellow card, the task became more difficult. And when Ross McCormack tried an audacious lob over the Watford keeper, it looked as if Jack Bonham was simply going to catch the ball and send it back up the other end. Until...
goes for the chip, and the goalkeeper has spilled it into the net! And Watford's hopes of going up automatically are killed by Ross McCormack.
Playoff football for Watford. But how did we get to this score? Well, in the first leg, Leicester dominated the game from start to finish. A David Nugent header from a knockout free kick was enough to take a 1-0 lead going into the game at Vicarage Road. with only 15 minutes gone. Striker Matej Vydra scored this wonderful volley to wipe out their deficit. But Leicester's lead was restored thanks to another David Nugent goal. Then it's Matej Vydra again who receives a 1-2 inside the box and finishes off a brilliant move to put Watford back ahead. But who's the guy that he just received the ball from? Watford's captain Troy Deeney took the rare path into professional football, going through non-league football at Chelmsford Town instead of going through an academy. At 18, Deeney was being scouted by the then League 2 club Walsall, and despite playing while drunk, he managed to score 7 goals in an 11-4 win, in which he was subsequently given a trial by the club. After finishing 2010 as Walsall's top scorer and winning the Player of the Year award, Deeney was signed by Watford for a fee of £500,000 in the summer. The first season didn't go so well, scoring just 2 goals from 36 games, but in the 2012 season, he broke double digits for the first time in his Watford career, and in 2013, he's racked up 19 goals in 40 games. Wait, 40? But where's the other 6? Well, Deeney missed the first 6 games of the season because he was still serving a prison sentence. In the summer of 2012, Troy Deeney was arrested for an affray after attacking a group of students outside a nightclub. He was sentenced to 10 months in prison, in which he only served 3. Now, he's made an instant impact by assisting Vydra. But with almost no time left on the clock in added time, Leicester City winger Anthony Knockaert picks up the ball and drives towards the penalty area, and then flops like a fish. But somehow the referee buys it and Leicester have just won a very, very contentious penalty. Taking it is a man looking to become a hero. Anthony Knockaert is in his debut season with the Foxes, having joined them from French side Guingamp. He's scored 8 goals so far this season, with half of them coming against Huddersfield Town. But he's never scored a penalty before. In fact, he's never taken one. And he's coming up against a man who saved many in his career, Manuel Almunia. The former Arsenal keeper has plenty of experience in facing penalties. He's saved 8 so far in his career, with 2 coming in this very season. With a place at Wembley on the line, will the new signing become an instant hero with his first ever penalty? Does the ultimate comeback story end in disappointment for the Watford captain? Or will the experienced keeper deny the Foxes and save a penalty that should have never been given? Here is the greatest goal in playoff history.
Knockaert takes, Almunia saves, Knockaert follows in, Almunia saves again! Absolutely astonishing. Now here come Watford. Forestieri. Here's Hogg! Deeney! Do not scratch your eyes. You are really seeing the most extraordinary finish here.
Watford ended up losing in the final to Crystal Palace, but they'd eventually go up. And we all know what happened to Leicester City.